Good morning, guys. How is everybody doing? It is, good morning, good morning. Oof. The coffee. Ready to go, kinda. So it is a pretty slow pre-market out there, guys. Gonna give everybody like 2-3 minutes to get in and then do a quick pre-market live. I want to go over one trade from yesterday because it got brought to my attention and I think it would be helpful to go over, and then go from there. Good morning, good morning. All right, guys, so first off, I want to talk about the Verb trade. Took it last night. Obviously, was buying 268s last night, 270s. Had a really nice run up this morning. High of the day, 333. This is reminding me a lot of the XELA trade. If you just look at the hourly chart, right? This is a big, breakout on the weekly chart over that level. And the gap on the weekly is like crazy. It's like 550, I think, is the gap, 590. I would have liked the breakout to hold a little bit more, but I still think that we kind of have set it in motion, and now it's just about, needs to find a base. So far it's been basing like 280s, 270s, right? 205 is probably gonna be my stop from the close yesterday. I wouldn't let it go below there. That's going to be my risk on the trade. But above that 330 level, I think that we can definitely see a move over 5. So thank you, guys. I appreciate that. This shadow, but I appreciate it. I don't usually grow it out, but I got my hair cut too. Yeah, thank you, guys. I appreciate that. Finally, one of the things that I haven't really been keeping up with as much as I need to when I get super busy, but finally got it done yesterday. Yeah, I mean, Bitcoin under 32K. I know a lot of people said, I think Riot, broke that key psychological level of 30 yesterday. I think lows were 22. Yeah, I mean, it has room down to the 22 level. That would have to be a big flush, though. I think that Bitcoin would need to drop below 30K in order for us to do that. So probably, not the best risk reward. Riot had been in that channel for so long, but it looks like finally we're kind of breaking down. I think the time to get in puts will be under 30K on Bitcoin. But, not bad idea to grab a starter. Before I go over that, I want to start with, like I said, Verb. This is what I'm looking at on the daily and the weekly. Big breakout over that 320-ish level. So again, my target's 5 on this. But in the meantime, sell the rips, buy dips. Same plan as Alexa. But just want to see it base 250. If it broke below that, I'd be out. But that's gonna be my risk on the trade. Obviously, taking a little bit of profit along the way. So Verb is its own thing. I want to go over the Tesla trade from yesterday really quickly because I know that was I feel like a lot of people took it, and it was probably helpful to see, but it got brought to my attention that some people either got stopped out or didn't stay in the trade yesterday because we ended up retesting. One second. That 662 level, which was right up here. So yesterday, let's see. Yeah, so yesterday, right, I took this trade once it broke its low of the day, which was 660 at the time, or 661. So you can see when you're going into shorting mode, right, when you're getting ready to take a short position, right, you need to look at a few things. And those are, you want to look at the low of the day from the morning, which was 661.93, right? And then we gap up to the 667 level, reject it. And then as we're coming down, once we broke the low of the day originally is where I took the puts, which was right in this area when we broke below 660. I'm still in 30% of those Tesla puts also. I would not be surprised to see a big flush at open. But I took the trade here once we broke under low of the day, right, from this morning, which is right there. I'm going to put a line there. But it's a good learning moment. I had a one-on-one with someone, and they pointed this out to me because it was, an interesting setup. But it's a setup you're going to see a lot. So I want to illustrate it because it's important. So once we broke below low of the day, I took the puts, right? And we got a nice move down to 658 support level, bounced, right? And then we consolidated, bounced again. And this is where a lot of people got faked out, which, I probably should have posted something saying this because I realized like as a beginner, it's hard, you get faked out by a move like this a lot. But what happened was, the person I was talking to was like, hey man, like I ended up stopping out of the Tesla puts for a small loss because I thought it broke over 660, which was, concerning to me because I felt like that was mean, we were going to get the reversal. When in reality, he was looking at daily chart support, which was smart, but what you have to do is you have to go and look at the support on the 5 minute, right? From like what's its low of the day. And its low of the day up to that point was the 662 level, right? Or 661.9, right? And what happened is we broke below low of the day, came back up, and then what happened was that old support turned into new resistance, right? So we couldn't break that level. And then look what happens. As soon as we reject that 662 level, massive red candle on the 5 minute, right? And we get the move down, right? And we ended up closing at 653. Right, so I want everybody to realize, like, as soon as, this was my original confirmation of the short, right? And then if we had broken over 662, we probably would have bounced back up. But what happened is since we couldn't break our prior days, we couldn't turn that resistance into new support again, right? What happened was the old support, on the intraday became the new resistance, right? So 662 level turned into resistance. And look what happens. The minute that we reject that was a huge short signal, right? Because people that were long, right? Obviously, you don't want to be long when that happens. So look at all that heavy selling pressure we get as soon as we reject 662, right? So just a bearish signal overall for the stock in general, which is why I kept the puts, right? So how can we confirm that the old support is the new resistance? This is your confirmation. When you see this, when you see like a 5 minute candle test it, but it doesn't break, and then the next 5 minute candle, you should see the rejection. So this is your confirmation that the old support is now new resistance. You can just see, right? And you can tell that that's the old support because that was our low of the day in the morning, right? We touched that level pre-market at open, and then, right, again throughout the day. So once we rejected it, that was your key that we had turned. For day trading like this, those switching of support and resistance are huge. Yeah, it's massive. It's everything. You can throw all the other indicators out the window. If you can read support and resistance at key levels, then you're in a good spot. So, and these are, more advanced trades, guys. You have to realize the market isn't like how it was a few months ago. It's not the GME, AMC to 500 market. It's you have to know what you're doing in order to make money out here, right? And if you don't, then you're gonna get pieced up. It's not, this market eats beginners alive, and so you have to be really smart, tread really carefully, and don't get caught. I see a lot of people talking about Netflix. I don't know, it's not that enticing to me. It's been consolidating like this for a long time. I don't know. I get why people are enticed about it, but not really on my watch list today. It's having a nice pre-market. I would look for the break of 566. obviously, like, I want to go up here. Sorry guys, give me 1 second. There we go. Yeah, I mean, we've been in this consolidation on pattern on Netflix now. Like, you can see just for like what, a year, you know, that we've just kind of been stuck. Can't break 600, right? Strong support, high fours, right? Big resistance right here, 560. I think this is setting up kind of like Amazon was, like, you know, like just big breakout. But I think the overall market just concerns me a little bit, you know, to be long, because it's like, okay, you know, I don't want to get caught buying a breakout and, you know, in this type of market. Back on Tesla, what key level would you switch to long if SPY goes up and VIX stays low? For me on Tesla, I wouldn't be surprised to see a bounce. Like, you kind of have to go to the hourly, in my opinion, on that. But like, so see where you have this massive gap down to 633. And I don't have the volume profile on this, but there's a huge volume gap right here as well. So there's not a lot of support on the chart. You know, if you use VPA, I'll probably start charting on TD for these, but you can see that there's a massive volume gap down to the 633 level, which is why the support is so strong. I don't want to touch Tesla long side until 635, like minimum. 633 ideally. And then I love the 650 calls after that, because we have a habit of bouncing at this level on the hourly, right? We've come down, like, rejected 700, and like, look at the last time we rejected 700 on the hourly, right? Rejected 700, what do we do? Came all the way down to 620, right? So I wouldn't even be surprised to see a flush to 620, because these charts have just been repeating themselves, and we've already rejected this as support, and it's like, okay, now we have this big gap down, and for me, it's like I'm not going to be surprised at all. I would say, like, I'm leaning towards the fact that Tesla's going to gap down that far today. So, what I would look for off open on Tesla is if you see we test the 662 level off open and we reject it again, I'm probably going to buy more puts, to be honest, because that would be get the confirmation again. So, how can you learn all of the support resistance lines you have in your charts? You have a vid out there. You probably just need to go in and learn. My Tesla levels are like super specific to me, because I've traded a ton before. And so like my daily levels are like much more specific. Like you can see like my shit, like it's crazy, but that's because I was shorting Tesla a bunch, like in March and April and May. So I was like really nitpicky about it. The hourly resistance is probably like more like, you could take a screenshot if you want, but they're pretty easy. You should probably like memorize them. It's, 602, 616, 624, 633. 662 is a big one. 683 is massive. 694 has proved to be big. And then the 704, 702 level is pretty big. So in this range, this is kind of what you need to remember right now in this market. And I always talk about this is like, if you can get to the point where, even if you just have to practice on one stock, becoming proficient at levels on at least like one ticker is tremendously helpful. I don't think Webull ever will, to be honest. I feel like it's like, did you ever did options on Wellsman? I don't know what that means. Wells Fargo, maybe WFC. Oh yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I try to stick with what I'm good at. Like, people are always like, do you trade all these different tickers and like the banks, and like, it's just like, I focus on what I'm good at. That is what makes me money the most consistently. I don't try to trade like a million different tickers. Every time I try to trade a ticker, I've never like really traded before. I like always seem to not have like as good of a day, and always like the plan is always a little bit rougher. So I just try to stick with what I know. How can you tell which levels are major key and breakout levels? So you want to look at like if you look at Tesla here, right? Bridget, so you see the breakout, see how we had this big breakout on on the hourly when we broke over 662. So you can now tell that 662 is going to be a really strong resistance for Tesla, because when it broke 662 to the upside, it broke out like really, like, you know, a huge gap up off 662 once it broke out finally, right? But you can tell that that 662 area was a major point of resistance because we kept, you know, testing it. So once we finally broke through, you know it's going to be a huge breakout because it took us so much to break that resistance. So when it breaks it to the downside, you know that it's going to be a tougher resistance to break once it tries to go back up because, you know, we broke out so heavily off, you know, the breakout initially, if that makes sense. So when you get a big green candle off of a resistance level, so you can see here, right? Once we broke 662, we got a massive gap up, right? So now you know that on the downside, when we break down below 662, we're going to have a lot of resistance at this level because it was a breakout level before. Awesome. Okay. Just wanted to make sure that makes sense. A really good example of what she's talking about, guys, which is a really important thing to learn, and it's perfectly illustrated right here on snow. Okay. Like if we look at the hourly chart on snow, right? Do you guys see like what I'm seeing? Okay. Look what happens, right? This is why I knew snow was going to be easy short yesterday, because once we broke, so we had this big breakout last week, right? We get all this buying volume. We break out huge, right? Once we broke 659, right, to the upside, look what happened. We got this huge gap up, right? And then we break out and then we test 675, which we knew was a huge level, reject it, come back, retest 669, right? We don't hold it. But look what happens. I knew that yesterday, if we broke 659 on snow downside, then we would have an easy short, right? And those puts went, what, 60%, 70%? Look at this. The reason I knew that snow was going to be a free short yesterday was because I knew that we broke out over 659 or 259. So when we broke under it, we were going to have a hard time regaining that level, and we had a big gap down to fill on the hourly chart, right? This is why the hourly chart is so important, guys, because it tells you the story. When you're in terms of day trading, like the hourly chart is like what I look at like first, then I confirm my levels off the daily, and then I look at my 5-minute intraday chart. But does that make sense? Like, you guys can tell me in the live chat if that makes sense, because I want to explain it in the way that is like processing for you guys, because I know it's difficult to understand. But if this key level 659, see how once we broke that, the hourly candles were huge. We got these big green hourly candles and broke out heavy, right? So once we break it to the downside, it's the exact opposite. So it goes down way faster because there's no support here. Does that make sense? You guys can, if that makes sense in the live chat, I don't know, give me a thumbs up, like tell me, because I want this concept to stick, because this is like really important in terms of like you being able to decisively like make these decisions and trades, like, for yourself. Like, there's going to be trades that I don't see. I just, like, again, I try to focus on the tickers that I am good at, and like I am good at these tickers, and that's why I usually have high confidence setups, right? But cool. All right. Yeah. And I know, like, I think that's honestly like one of the better examples I had seen. But remember, like I just illustrated the other example on Tesla, right? Which is when we had this big breakout, right? So yesterday, once we break below this level from which we broke out from, I know that it's going to be really hard for us to retest that level. So today, what I'm going to look for on Tesla is a retest of the 662 level. If we broke 662, then we would have a really nice gap to 677. But I wouldn't be surprised if we test that 662 level off open, reject it hard on the 5-minute, and then, puts pay again. I wouldn't be surprised, right? Like, that's going to be one of the 8+ setups that I'm looking at. So, like, I'll try to do another live with a little bit more examples. It's already like 9:02. Yeah, Apple puts do look good off open. I think puts on everything good look good off open, but when everybody thinks that, usually the market just like gaps up. So I'm gonna be patient. I'm gonna focus on Tesla short side for a little bit, probably. Gonna see how the selling is on Apple. I would want to confirm off of if we confirm that resistance off 150, remember 150 is going to be a big psych level, so just got to be smart this high on Apple. You don't want to chase and get donkeyed. So weekly expiry on Tesla puts, yeah, everything I trade is weeklies. Yeah, so if we confirm that resistance off the like 149 like 7 level, maybe we test 150 and bounce down. I like the 147 puts weekly, but I think there's a bigger trade on Tesla just because of this gap down. Like, I don't know, it's just more enticing to me if Tesla confirms resistance at 662. I mean, it's a gap, right? Like, that's a 20-point gap on Tesla. So just a little bit more enticing to me. So those are going to be the main two setups that I'm looking at off open. I need to get the written watch list finished, so I'm going to call it a morning on the live. I know it's kind of a quick 30 minutes, but yeah. So hopefully that kind of cleared up a lot of stuff. Gave you guys, like, maybe some of the people that aren't as familiar with, the support and resistance stuff, a good, base, so you can, kind of understand what's going on. So I hope you guys have an awesome day. The hoodies are shipping this afternoon, so I know you guys are excited about that. But yeah, have a fantastic morning, guys. Good luck. Make sure you're taking A+ setups, right? So let's have an awesome day. Take it easy, guys.